And good morning. Here we are, getting along towards Christmas. And it's Saturday, and it's our morning ramble. I was too tuckered out last night to do an evening chat. And I will continue with the discourse on the open window of the opportunity. We have 13 months, right? Between now and May, we should all be preparing, figuring out what we want, what we need, right? Rather than deluding ourselves by believing in the lie that the our culture, which is already dead, it basically kind of died in 2012. When you're looking at long um, thrusts of trends, right? And because we're no longer in the world that we thought we are. We're no longer, hey, Jane, good morning. And um, again, we need to be doing our homework, right? We need to be reading and writing and thinking and communicating and building our communities. And we need to do them first in the close proximity ourselves. I keep talking about getting the bus and bringing the band together and bringing it on the road. And that'd be great. I'm trying to do that. And that's why I'm on the BOP. That's why I'm traveling around instead of staying in the deep green. The deep green is just too cold in the winter. I'm too high up in the air, and when we get snowstorms, we get like 40, 50 inches. I live in the deep forest, in the national forest, and I'm off of a paved road by about 8 miles. So it's okay for the spring, summer, and fall. Between April and November, it's okay. But that December, January, February, March, ooh. So that's why I'm on the BOP, That's why I want to come visit you, Janie, you got a catch for me to stay on? And it'd be really great. Jane, do you live in the South? Is it warm where you are? Because where I am now, it's less, I'm right off of not too far from a paved road. And they don't quite get the snowstorms the deep green gets. So, but I can't, I'm good here for till after Christmas. And then I gotta go. And my car is not warm here. So, anyway. But, Jane, everything is a matter of increments. Right? So, we need to be reading. Like there's a guy named Chris Hedgens. Right? Go Google him. And in the last 5 years, he's written a number of really good books that really put what it is to the fact. And then if you go look at the breakaway civilization community, people like Joseph P. Farrell, you know, and David Icke. Jane, have you ever seen any of David Icke's YouTubes? Well, I'd love to visit you, Jane. Get a hold of me at all of you folks. Get a hold of me at thedudewake42 at gmail. Leave me your phone number if you're in America, and we can talk. Okay. And So Jane, in your neighborhood, like, since you're chatting here with me, do you have a community? Do you have people that Do you have a book club? It'd be good. You get a Sensei Al Bob club where you come and watch whoever has the best big screen. Um, yep, he's the hidden hand. So David Icke is an interesting guy because I was in that community in the 70s and 80s. What kind of we have a convention of like mind of these you know theories and knowledge that most people have no idea of. And and they tend to be esoteric and occult. And what is a cult? Cult is hidden knowledge. It's not devil worship. You know, and I take a bus. Yeah, I do have wheels. My rolling house. It's getting a little old. It's got issues like me, but my car and I are both kind of getting along. I'm just, every year around this time, I have a bunch of doctors who take care of me, every 6 months or every, 90 days. Um, but once a year, I get, total blood workup, x-rays, all that kind of stuff. Tomorrow is my last of the group of doctors I've seen for the last 2 weeks. And I'm in pretty good shape. I'm probably in the best shape I've been in 5 years, So that's good. So that means I'm full, ready to go to address the opportunity, right? And that's where we are. We have real opportunities here. So, um, we just have to be able to appreciate and understand that we can't do the same thing over and over again. That's it. When you do the same thing over and over again, expect different outcomes. That's the sign of you're nuts. So, and that's why our present culture is nuts. The white male culture is nuts because our um, neoliberal, neoconservative dogma of the fascist corporate bird, you know, um, basically, oh, we'll go into Afghanistan. And, why did we go into Afghanistan? Why did Russia go into Afghanistan? Because they wanted to put in a pipeline, bring natural gas to Europe, right? We stopped that, right? Why did we want to go into Afghanistan? It's because the Taliban was the only political group that had stopped um, the Anglo-American production of opium, poppy. That was the largest producer of poppy at the time for the Anglo-American corporate hegemony. And England, from the beginning of it's this little teeny island, and it controlled the freaking world for 200 years. Um, and how do they do that? Well, they were on the backside of the inertia of the Roman Empire. England was basically the Roman Empire, and Germany, the Third Reich, was again the on the back um, of the inertia of the Roman Empire. The Third Reich, what is the First Reich? It's a Greek Empire. Second Reich was the Roman Empire, and Third Reich was the rebranding of the Roman Empire. First was Rome as a republic, and then it was the Roman Empire. Then it was the Holy Roman Empire. That was the Catholic Church, and then it became England, and then it became Nazi. And with the end of World War II, where Germany was bombed in the Stone Age, the Nazis, Hail Hydra, um, through the Operation Paperclip. You can go look and read books about Operation Paperclip, and that was when we brought Nazi scientists to the United States, and the poster boy of that was Werner von Braun, and it was said, oh, these weren't bad Nazis; they were nice Nazis, but not so much, because um, the factory, um, the underground factory, when you went into it, um, that manufactured the B-2, they had bodies of slave workers from the concentration camps who didn't work hard or fast enough, and so they were strung up. And in the ceilings of the caves, they nailed people, hydraulically, because they would put these big metal spikes into the roof of the cave so they wouldn't collapse. And when they did that, they would take uh, the this slave labor who was rebelling or not working hard enough, and they would nail them up there, still alive. And went, "Ah." So, and that was Werner von Braun. And so that's not so nice. Not so much. No. Mm-mm. And Roanoke. Why have I been in Roanoke as long as I have? Because um, at the time that I stumbled in here, I was working as a demographer for the corporate world, and I would travel all over the place. They want to know about the traffic flows of this or that. And I would go to that place, but then I realized as I stumbled in here that Roanoke was the microcosm of the United States. And it was what made Roanoke, what brought it from the Salt Lick, a cowboy town, to a manufacturing town, was just that: the railroads, transportation, the location of nearby resources. And so, as of like after the Civil War, as of oh, 1871, when they passed. In 1871, the District of Columbia was created. And what that did was it turned the United States into a corporate country, gave all of the rights, the Constitution, we the people, they took it of it, we the corporations. The corporations initially were started. You had to get a license, per se, from the government, and you had to tell them what you were going to do, how you were going to do it, and why you were doing it, and you were doing, and the government would only give you that license if what you were doing was for the benefit of we the people. Right? But when they changed it from we the people to we the corporations, um, that's when the game changed, and that's what the Civil War is about. It wasn't about slavery, because the North had their own slaves. They were called Irish immigrants, and they treated them like a cog in a machine. Whereas in the South, they owned the slaves, right? And so it's like, who would drive their tractor into a brick wall? So the slaves outnumbered the white folks in the South, and so you couldn't really piss them off, or they would rebel. And they had a number of rebellions around crazy slave owners that forced the slaves to rebel, basically. So that's kind of where we are. We are the slaves, and we are being forced in a corner. When more than half of the American population can't survive, like my car is just hanging in there, and I just went to the mechanic, Firestone, because they will give you a total. They spent 2 hours looking at my car, and they should tell me all the things that were wrong with it, and it will cost $3,000 to fix. More than my car is worth. You and my holler mechanic, in wintertime, he really slows down. He like kind of just stays in bed. So he could fix about half of my stuff that's wrong. If I bought the parts for about $600, he would fix it for about $300. So instead of 3,000, it would cost $900. I mean, to get everything fixed. And I don't quite need everything fixed. The car was going along fine. It rattles a lot, But the thing, I mean, I've had the thing just stop, and it's kind of hard when your only means of transportation just dies. So, anyway, Roanoke was this town that not only gave you the picture of what America was doing demographically, but it had the opportunity um, to be um, the example of how to fix America, right? And because it has all this transportation, they were going to turn Roanoke into the Charlotte, into the Atlanta. But the rich people in Bedford, they had enough power. Disney was going to build a Civil War theme park, right? And they bought the property, and they were just about to move on it. And the rich people in Bedford said, "No, not going to do it." And they stopped Disney. I mean, imagine who had the power. I mean, like the hidden hand lives in Bedford, Virginia. And along the Blue Ridge Parkway up there are a number of dumps, deep underground military bases. I mean, serious ones. So I used to live in Bedford and Lynchburg, and that's when I worked for the corporation. So I would work 11 to 15 weeks a year. That's why I had to work to make between 40 and $100,000 a year, right, as a consultant, right? And I'm living on $481 a month. I'm pretty good at living on whatever I have. So I mean that's how I gained 270 pounds. I was living for 10 years. Uber. Um, you know, I was living like a king. I was eating 20,000 calories a friggin' day. Now I eat about 300 to 800 calories a day. That's why, my last medical, when was it? Thursday. I went and saw my primary care doctor, who has been looking at me for the last 8 years since I died and played spaghetti. And he goes, you're really doing great. You've lost 270 pounds, and every time you come here, you lose 2 to 3 pounds. That's the way to go. And my blood pressure is, 130 over 70. And it's usually there, and that's usually what it is. My blood sugar is between 97 and 124. I mean, the other night, a friend of mine took me out to dinner, so we had a nice yummy dinner and a couple of glasses of wine and a piece of cheesecake. And the next morning when I took my blood sugar, it was around 170. But I just took it this morning and it was around 89. So, and that's pretty much the third largest killer of the citizens of America is healthcare. Number one, it bounces back between heart disease and cancer as 1 and 2, but the number 3 is healthcare. 1 out of 8 people die by just walking through the door of a hospital, and of those 8, but just the people who walk, people who are going to visit grandma who is in there, 1 in 8 of them die because there's so much crap floating around there. I mean, just look at the Legionnaire's disease. Desperate lawyers, yeah. S. Taylor, Master A1. It does seem that wars were manufactured for benefit of a few. Yeah, like Dick Cheney. And so, why did we go into Syria? Because, the Russians were going to bring a pipeline through Syria to bring gas to Europe. And Saudi Arabia, the guys who flew the airplanes were, wannabes from Saudi Arabia. Yeah, extreme, violent. I mean, they're not even Muslims, right? And I mean, they're so extreme in their beliefs, they're not even Muslims because the major thrust of the Muslim religion, is hospitality, generosity, and love. Meaning, they based it on Jesus. They really like Jesus. Muslims like, if you read the Quran, they like Jesus. Islam is based on the religions of the book. Judaism and Christianity. I mean, the positive sides of those two religions, right? The Hebrew nation is based on justice. Not Moses. No, he was just based on wrath. He was killing everybody. And in Christianity, you had Jesus, who said, "Turn the other cheek, love your neighbor, love your enemy." Right? And that's what I try and do in every day and every way through service of love's co-creation, and it makes life a lot easier. Right? And so when I'm being really harassed by the trolls, but how I look at it is I feel sorry for those people. If they, I mean, what kind of life do they have? Something. I'm like an old guy, and this is my job basically. To serve love's co-creation. Right? This ain't no vacation. This little journey isn't for the light at heart, but it is probably the best thing you can do. It is the most fun. It is the most rewarding. Because when I had a lot of money, like I said, I lived a real hedonist life. I stayed at the 5-star hotels. I could just when it got cold, I went down to my little house in the Florida Keys. When it got warm up north, I went up to my beautiful mountain retreat. You know, at the school and in the deep green, and I had a couple of I had a bunch of places. Right? But I had to get I own have nothing. Right? And there's a level of freedom. So that's kind of what. One thing about this beard is like the good things. There's something there I can eat that, or it gets kind of stuck there. It's like the young valley girls who like twizzle their hair. That's old guys. We play with our beards. Um, discovered some plain truth about things. Good, Jane. What's the plain truth? Well, I actually get up um, with the sun. I mean, when I live in the deep green, I go to bed when it's dark. And I wake up when the sun comes up. So when I'm here, it's I woke up early. And usually I get off and do something. And it's a deep green. I have to travel 10 miles to go to a place that has Wi-Fi. You know, so that's why I don't do too many early in the deep green live chats. Because I have to travel someplace. Here I'm at a place that has pretty good Wi-Fi, and I woke up and I have things to go off to do, and I'm gonna go to a hospital and be Santa Claus all day, and that should be fun. I used to work with everybody in this town, and the best, most righteous organization was the Salvation Army. And the problem with the Salvation Army, it's dependent on who's running it at the time. And when I was here, for a good 4 years, it was great. Captain Monica was great. I would come in and say, "Hey, why don't we do this?" And she'd, "Okay, let's do it." Right? But then getting the rest of the city and the usual suspects together to do it was always a little challenging. There's Jamie. Hey, Jamie, buddy. That's those guys. You know, Jamie. It's interesting. I use the term girls and guys interchangeable. When I was in a corporate, I'd be in a boardroom of all men. It goes, "Okay, ladies, what are we gonna do?" I saw one of my business friends. He took me out to lunch last week, and he wanted to know what's going on in the world. So he took me out to lunch and I gave him insights on things. And um, and he's one of those guys who I said, "Come on, ladies," um, so genders, we all start out as women. When our egg gets fertilized, and we're in our mother's womb for the first 4 or 5 weeks, we're females, and then that blast of hormones comes, and that's when biology decides whether we have our genitals on the inside or on the outside. And basically, people freak out about gay people and transsexual and transgendered and LBGTQS. MICKYMOUSE. Anyway, it's all a matter of that blast of the hormone. And it's like, nothing is just black and white. It's all a gradation. So you got to blast that hormone. Some maybe not so much. So maybe you come out with your genitals hanging, but you feel like they should be on the inside. So you call everyone protoplasm. when, when I kind of looked at it, I thought it said portobellos. You're calling everyone a mushroom. uh, uh, so um, so there's guys like Chris Hedges, right? You know, he was a reporter from the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and everybody and his brother, and he just kept telling the truth, and then they fired him, right? Just like Phil Donahue, who was one of the first guys on MSNBC, fired him. There are a number of people. The media class is owned by 6 corporations, and most of them are large military industrial complexes. So, Noam Chomsky's great book of manufacturing consent, that's what we got. We don't have any free speech, you know, and YouTube is ready to, axe anyone who is speaking freely, and that's why I keep get all of my thumb hard drives, CD-ROMs, whatever, and it can be done. Dragon did a great job, and I had about 300 shows. He put them all on a number of thumb drives and sent them to me, along with those amazing paintings and a really sweet letter, and one 5 loony Canadian bill that I still have in my wallet. That's the only thing I took that out and stuck it in my wallet. And but you know those thumb drives and those really beautiful paintings went missing. Up at the school. I had it on my little dresser drawer one day, and I looked for it, and I took the whole room apart, couldn't find it. But what that did was, it made me just say, okay, material things aren't that important, and you know, if I don't have a historical reference of these shows myself, that's okay. Be good if you guys had one, because I can tell these stories over and over again. And I've written them down in novels. Remember, go to my xratted.blogspot.com and read my new one, which is same as it ever was. Don't believe a word I say. And remember, folks, I am your Griot Sensei Al Bob, and I'm just here to tell you a story. Nothing is real. The only thing you don't believe in anything, especially me. Believe, don't believe, but have faith in love's co-creation. Right? Uh, yep, better than bags of ugly water. Yep. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Like I said, I'm in the best shape I've probably been in the last 5 years. Right? Because 98% of what's going on in your body is what you eat. So I have no money. They keep cutting when I was disabled before I hit 65 about 5 years ago. I got like almost $1,000 in disability, bucks in food stamps. Now I get $481 in um, Social Security, and you know I get $54 in food stamps. Right? And the Social Security lady nearby me, very nice person, because most bureaucrats are like just harassed, and so they harass the people, right? This one Social Security lady once said, when they kept cutting my food stamps, and I've had people tell me this more than once, like where I get my medicines, you know, it's a nonprofit HMO, and they their organization is, in this part of the country, but they're part of a larger network that's global, and those guys buy their stuff in a global way, like they were a government or something. And so the all of my medicines for 90 days, and one reason I come back here is to buy my 90 days worth of stuff from them, is $30, right? But I was in North Carolina and I went to CVS and I only wanted my diabetic medicine. Well, they wanted to charge me $3,500 for 1 month of my. I have a friend of mine who's dying of cancer, and he gets this cancer pill, one pill, $54,000 a month. I said, "Is that really keeping you alive?" And I mean, he's been radiated and chemoed and sliced up, and he looks like a walking skeleton, you know. But the reason he's alive is he's got such prana in him. He's got such a will to live. He's got grandchildren. He wants to see them grown up. Yeah, a compilation. So anybody wants to do that. And the other thing that I thought would be, I give total permission for you guys. I mean, the troll guy, because there are a couple of trolls, but this one troll guy has a channel totally about me and how much he hates me and how much he wants to kill me, right? One guy, I mean, I don't even know who the guy is or gal, you know. And it was Yo-Yo, who came on, and I just called him Yo-Yo, and he got incensed, And the fact that I blocked him from the chat, and I think he went off and got about 20 other, you know, email accounts and YouTube things, and because, you know, right now I have a 2 thumbs up, right? But usually by the end, if I do these things long enough, right now look at that, 33 minutes and 33 seconds. And usually, if I do, let's say, a 2-hour one late at night, I will have about 40 people who have watched it for that event. And I'll have like maybe 8 or 9 thumbs up, right? Well, the next morning, and I will look, and when you quit, it kind of goes down to the I'll have, somewhere between 8 and 40 people who have watched that show, right? Oh, no, your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to reconnect, you know? Uh, And that happens, when I start talking. So there's a lot of, negative influence on this show. I mean, something close to 50,000 people view this thing, yet um, only 345 subscribers. And I've lost 6 subscribers in the last 24 days. So somebody's screwing with my channel in a way. So I thought it would be great. Did any of you guys ever watch that show, Science Fiction Theater 3000, right? And where they play, 1950s grade B sci-fi movies like The Blob or whatever. And they had these thumb puppets, so they had the screen up here and then they had these guys in shadow and they're cracking, making jokes about the movie. And I think it would be great if one of you guys would take how I guess I'm probably getting close to 1,000 shows, and so I know I'm way past 700 because I was getting towards 700 about springtime. So let's see. I think compilation challenge for your best stories would do well. You guys need to do that. Having your permission, I may do that. I'm giving you my permission, 100%. It got really interesting. Ooh, tales. Yep, people are fascinated with all that. Yep. I'd love to do parody. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Compilation. Yep, yep. I use the 1960s cool psychedelia. Yep, 100%. Go for it. Um, um, someone spammed my old YouTube with Jim Neighbors clips. I mean, when people do stuff like that, you know, that's like a sense of love. Freud said hate is a very shallow emotion because it has to come, it's in the shadow of love. You can't hate something unless you loved it to begin with, right? Yep. Yeah, Project Camelot is a very interesting crew because sometimes that's pretty interesting. Other times, really, come on, you're so full of yourself, you know. And that's the new age crowd. I mean, they think they've got something new. No, I mean the really interesting time in the esoteria in the United States was like from the Civil War until 1912. I mean, some pretty. I mean, there were amazing thousands of communities made, and I remember I was at the farm in Tennessee back in the '60s. Steve Haskins' farm, right? And those guys had it together, and I was just getting into my, historical demographic thing, and so I was there, talking to Steve one day, and I said, and he was going on because he like took over the town and their neighborhood, and they like were building an empire, right? I said, buddy, this has been done before because he was talking like this is the newest thing, and no one's done. I said, no, the Amish did it. There were all kinds of industrial communities built around this guy who was making a lot of money, so he wanted to keep his workers happy. So he built some really nice houses and schools, and he did the have healthcare and farming and dance halls, and you know. And that's when America's good, when things like that go up. You know? You know? I'm gonna have to go check out this Captain Mark Richards. Jamie, could you do me a big, 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 big favor? And I have a problem trying to find things, and that's why I have a really great stream. The people sending me stuff to go, hey, go take a look at this, so I can just click on it and go to it because my eyes, when I have to type, you know, I don't. My keyboard here is black, and the letters on it are gray. What do you? Unless I have like a spotlight on my keyboard, I can't even see it. Yeah. So, so Jamie, if you could send me a link to my judawake42 @gmail. And okay, I'm gonna have to do that. And like research says, I'm gonna have to figure out how to use Skype. You know, so I can interview people. Because last night I went to a friend of mine's oh, art opening, and I used my phone, and I did about a 40-minute. She explained all her pieces, and then people were looking at it, and I kind of talked to them, and it was a really good little thing. And she, saw me doing this, and I mean, she's a filmmaker herself, and She's a great teacher. She's been teaching. I mean, she could have been a zillionaire. She was at the top of the game of computers and social media in the 1980s. She was working for Hewlett Packard. She could have, but she was the smartest person in the room, and she was a woman, and she just had it with the boys' club that was there. So, a university offered her a nice, she could do whatever the heck she wanted. They paid her pretty good. She was going to be secure in healthcare and retirement and all that kind of stuff. And then she went there and did it. And she was just about to take another job with like Disney and be head of their digital. She was going to, but she met a guy at the college and married him and had kids. And, she was comfortable teaching. But now she's kind of miserable because the kids, last 10 years of kids, and that she has me come to her college to stir the whole college freaking up. And, you know, so she walked me around, showed me the place, and then set up every department. But first off, I went to the president, the head guy, right? And I walked up to his office, and this is when I was still pretty ill. I had a walker. And in his office, he was on the second floor, and it had this big staircase, no elevator. And I had to hobble up a staircase, with a walker. Anyway, so I go there, and there's this bench outside his office, and you can look straight in. You sit at this bench, you slide across, you find this one place where you could see his whole staff, their office, and there was a door into his big office, right? Right, so you could see him, and he had his big desk, so I could see everybody by just sitting out in the hallway. And I would wait and wait and wait, and when they would come and go, and go down, they'd have Xerox machines in their office, so they would have to go down the stairs to go do something. So when the moment came when there was no one in the front office, and the guy was back there like picking his navel lint out, I just got up, walked straight in, and he's like looking at his navel, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he kind of looked up at me, and I'd already closed the door to his office, right, quietly, and then he says, "Who are you?" And I said, "Let me see your palm." He asked me who I am, and I say, "Let me see your palm." And, so 99.9% of everyone, I say, "Let me see your palm." They put the palm up. And I read his palm. He said, "Wow." And then I handed him my card, which is my curriculum vitae. He said, "Wow." And then we started talking, and I said, "Listen, I can make your school Harvard, you know." And so I told him what I said. I had already written up a proposal, right? I handed it to him, and he kind of read it. He said, "Wow, this is amazing." And so we talked and talked until the door knocked, and the person who runs his life walks in and says, "Who's this guy?" I said, "This is my new best friend. This is Al. Let him read your palm." And she didn't want me to read her palm. She was like one of those 0.001 people who didn't want her palm read. Uh, leave it at that. Called The Dutchman. Well, this is kind of interesting. No, in the military. Have you heard of him? I'll have to go. Like I said, I'm going to go research this, Jamie. I tried. Hmm. This is I tried to fart, but popped in pants. Hi, is you, me, my grandpa's age. Like I said, I watch Project Camelot a good deal, and I think it's really good. But again, it's that essence of the New Age crew that think they know everything. I know nothing, you know. I better believe in anything? Not so much. Okay. Oh, so you sent me that. Hey, so Jamie's one of the people who sends me stuff on my feed. Yes, I looked at that. And um, the lady from the Camelot, she was cool, but the person who was interviewing her, she was cute, but she kept saying, "Oh, I've learned from you never, to be how to be a good interview and not interrupt." But because all she did was interrupt. But yeah, so I do like Project Camelot, and but I'm like your average YouTube viewer. I have the attention span of a gnat. So, Jamie, I will go back and look at it in its entirety. And thank you for sending it to me because so Jamie's one of those people who send me things on my feed, and so do that too. I appreciate that. Thanks for reminding me that. And so these glasses are my best Dollar Tree glasses for doing this. This is the highest power there is. So I actually don't have to wear 4 pairs of glasses to read the chat. Um, okay, I'm going to go back and, so I remember that. I know where it is. I will look at it in its entirety, right? Okay. It's that other person was the one who's kind of annoying me a bit, So I know you've sent me other stuff. Yep. So like I said, Jamie's the guy. And there are a couple other people who send me stuff in my feed. Well, there are a lot of people who send stuff in my feed, and it's a good thing. Keep doing it. I sent you the link. Okay, good. Just sent them. Okay, good. Okay, and look, feeds and my those things, Jamie. Did you send them in my feed or did you send them to my Gmail? I'll look in both places, right? And I'll try and look at all that stuff before the what time is it now? 8:59. Okay. So around 9, I have to. I'm getting a little hungry, so I'm going to go have breakfast and have a cup of coffee. Help my friend Buddy. So this horse walks into a bar. Okay. Yes. uh, so Buddy, I kind of did this early, hoping that this was a good time for you to be, because I know when I do it at certain times, it's like 3 in the morning for you. Uh, just saying. Oh, so yeah, that lady who has that. She's from California. Who's stopped the crime. She's like off the hook. And there are a lot of people out there. It's like the people out in the wilderness. They're telling you the truth. They're trying to get your attention. Say, hey kids, look at this. Yep, horse in a barn. Life can be like this. Yep. Yeah, Deborah. What's her name? Yep. She's off the hook. She's like, a pit bull with a bone. But she's right on. She's a really good researcher. And she goes to those you know state legislator things and screams at them, and the county commissioners and yells at them, and and if everyone did that, things would change. But it's just her. I hope she's having a good time doing it, because my observation of the environmental movement, there'll be somebody like her who's really passionate, is out there, and they they burn themselves out. And that's, when I was really involved in that scene, you know, I basically was um, I paced myself because I knew, like, when I got involved in the Stop Sharm campaign, the old ladies who had been at it, they'd been at it for 20 years. This handful of old grandmas had kept Long Island Mining Company and Chase Manhattan Bank at bay. Chase Manhattan Bank wanted to build 16 nuclear reactors on Long Island, and the old grandmas kept them to one. You know, but they were building it. And I went, and because I had worked in the nuclear industry, I went and said, "Hey, I'm a filmmaker, and I want to tell you, to the Long Island Mining Company guys, and here's my credentials, and I want to tell your story." Oh, wow, that's great. So let me look at everything, and then I basically put together a video that I sent to every news outlet and to the NRC, and the NRC was aghast. They weren't even, regulating what they were supposed to be regulating, and so then they started having hearings and getting in the face of Long Island Mining Company, and then Dick Cheney and George H. and Ronald Reagan just started signing executive orders. Horrible about how much suffering is allowed to happen. Probably. Well, you know, you have to realize, when you put it into context, when you realize we have reincarnation, that we just keep coming back and back and back and back and back and back, it kind of puts a more positive motif. And when you look at all the suffering that's been historically documented just for the last 3,000 years, you realize that's part of the game. That's how we learn stuff. I mean, it's like we're so moronic, but we have to hit ourselves in the head with a 2x4. So, that's kind of where it is. Yes, I too, because I've been, the last 50 years, physically straight up involved in trying to, allay the suffering of everyone around me. But, you can't. That's one reason why I stopped being a shrink. I could help individual people, but within the construct of that, no, I can help more people just, waiting online at Walmarts and talking to folk, you know? Oh, don't feel bad, Jamie. The beloved says, hands on. Yep. And remember that prayer, Bless us indeed, enlarge our territory, put your hand on our shoulders and keep us from evil so we will not do harm. And if that's what we do, we'll do okay. Okay, still 54 minutes. Still got a few more minutes. My friend, she's cooking up breakfast. I can smell that bacon and coffee are the two things. Bacon. I don't eat much of it because it's hard to chew without teeth. But the smell, I still love the smell. Yep, exactly. And the beloved isn't a he; it's more an it. You know. You know. And the only thing that exists is love's co-creation, and love loves us so much. Oh, you want to suffer? Oh, go ahead. It's like the school on the hill. Um, it has such strong shamanic energy. It's right on the main line of one of the earthway lines. And so you're up there, and that's why that whole school and that whole hill and all that stuff that George and Inga built, they built a community. But the people went up there and got totally blitzed, and all they did was screw around, masturbate, um, do drugs, and not get anything done. And everyone who got anything done had to leave. And me, I was only there for a month or two a year in the 15 years that I owned that place. Every year I was really just up there for that nice little window of August and September. And I'd still not even be there, continuously, just a few days here, a few days there. I never was there between. I would, if I was up there, I would leave by December 10th and not come back until April 1st. And that's kind of how it works. Let's see. And Satan is just a petuous little child, really, and that's why it's so screwed up. It has no sense of anyone else but its own hegemony. Oh, I want it this way. I want it this way. I want it this way. Yeah, that's another interesting thing, Jamie, is that this hegemony is not just it's not a pyramid. It's just kind of like blob, and so there's really no getting a hang of it, right? And that's why I don't give it very much shift. I just have faith in love's co-creation and serve that in every day in every way. Yep. Love's infusion. I like that. Mhm. And sometimes I think that you know I keep fighting this. I'm just giving energy to the hidden hand. I should just, and that's kind of why when I got offered to work in that environment in the corporate scene, really, I never had to work more than 11 to 15 weeks a year to make a really good salary. You know, I did that for 10 years. And what did that do? It made me, 270 pounds overweight. But I guess I had to do that. I guess I had to die in that plate of spaghetti, to to do this. So anyway, it's interesting. If you don't, I've been looking at my timer, and when I first looked at it, it was 54 minutes and 12 seconds, and now it's 58 minutes and 27 seconds, and the space in between seems like half an hour. So it's time is totally fluid. It's nothing linear. That's for sure. Anyway, hmm, don't feel bad. Yep. Yep. So this is a good little chat. We're doing good here. You're right on that one, buddy. Satan is boring, right? So I used to wire nightclubs, right? And so and I used to work for the mob wiring titty bars, right? And peep shows, right? I used to manufacture the little gizmos that would run the peep show. Like I say, were made in their 20s, and no one, no company, they couldn't get it on Amazon. So I used to manufacture them. And Mike Finelli, who was the godfather of all of that, he was really like my godfather. He was really sweet to me, and everyone in the entertainment business knew of me and knew that Mike Finelli was my godfather. So no one messed with me. I lived in some of the worst neighborhoods. Never got robbed. Never got mugged. Never got even hassled. Meaning all the OGs and all the lower gangsters were like, "Hey, how you doing, Al?" And they would come over and ask me about, I got a problem. My house a lifestyle. I would do stuff like that, or, my kid. I don't want to, what. So I don't know how many gangsters' children. I said, okay, send them to me, and I'll teach them to be an electrician. That's why I have 127 godchildren. So um, so I was part of that scene. So it has a real bad underbelly. And there was a club that I wired called Plato's Retreat, which was this guy who allegedly killed himself, under lock and key of the federal court. Um, the guy who was, his Lolita Express. Well, that's kind of what Plato's retreat was. And, I could have, and there was another club too. It was called the Hellfire Club, based on Benjamin Franklin's nightclub in Paris. And so Ben, why the French supported us is because, first Jefferson went over there, and everyone thought he was boring. And then, Ben went over, and he was like the Albert Einstein of his time. Everyone thought he was, oh, what a smart guy. Then he started a nightclub, and you went in, and there was a girl's door and a boy's door. You went in there, and it's like a locker room. Took all your clothes off. You got a fancy mask. You went out on the dance hall, totally naked, and everyone screwed each other. And the elite of France thought that was the best, right? So um, in New York, there was Plato's Retreat and the Hellfire Club, and I designed and lit both of them. And so I had, I could walk into any club in the 70s and early 80s. And boring, really was. No, because when it comes to intimacy, I like to be intimate, not doing it amongst 300 other people, dressed like a a forest animal. I mean, there was this one club that everyone, I don't know what neuroses it is, but they couldn't have sex unless they were costumed as an animal. And there was cliques. There was the sheep clique. There was the cow clique. There was the squirrel clique. The bunny clique. Boring. You know, if I'm I like being with somebody. I like reading them what I just wrote. I like snuggling. I like staying warm in bed next to another body, not getting sweaty, But, when that urge fits, I used to have a girlfriend who loved getting it on. And I've had a lot of girlfriends. That's been usually one of my major, like getting it on, good. You want to be, and I like it when the woman is in charge. Not so much in charge, but, you know, makes the first move. I like it when we're both equally together. I don't like the imbalance, right? I like to be. So, but I had this one girlfriend who loved doing it in public places, and she had the most amazing. She was another person who taught me how to be invisible. We would do it in bars, we would do it on subways, we'd do it in hallways, elevators, you name it. And she was so good at that. It was exciting because no one even had a clue what we were doing or that we were doing anything. Now that was cool because that was super intimate, because it was only us who knew what was going on. And and then she loved me. If we just did it at home, she liked. She was actually a good portion of her was like a homebody. She loved baking and she loved, her business. She was an herbalist, so we lived in this gigantic loft that smelled great because it was just full of every kind of anything you could smell. Uh, Jason Goodman, The Truth of David Hawkins, Vancouver, and Signet, Pig Farm Connect. Hey Jane, send me that link. I'd like to read that. Pretty crazy folks with serious issues. Yep, and that's the scary thing is that the people who are running our governments are scary folk who have serious issues. I mean, just look at Donald Trump. Right? And the scariest thing about Donald Trump, he isn't the most criminal, most corrupt, most icky person, who's running things. And he's not even running things. He's just a poster boy. Uh, well, it's 1 hour and 5 minutes, so I'm going to go have breakfast. You guys, you all know each other's emails. We are the cadre. Remember that. So I'm going to try. I just, sat in my, this chair last night for about an hour writing things down, thinking about what the show should be about. And I just fell asleep. So I said, okay, I'm asleep. I woke up a little later and said, okay, I'm going to bed. So that's what I did. So I'm going to go have breakfast. I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to start my day. So you all have a great day. And remember, in every day and every way, take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. I love you all. Stay well, be good. Okay? Hit that little one. Come on, there we go. And hit this little one.